So, Tony, if you were running this team, would you try and just kind of push the reset button, knowing that John's going to be out? He will never be the same because of the injury. For a guy who kind of relies on cutting, explosion, and speed, and that would you try and reset this whole process and try and trade Bradley, or do you want to keep Bradley and build around him?
Well, resetting the process is something that Ernie Grunfeld and his brass are going to have to decide if that's, totally what they're doing. And if that means trading Bradley Beal, it's not a trade that I would like to make. And you look at the Otto Porter trade, I don't think it's one they actually wanted to do as much as they felt forced from a luxury tax standpoint. And you certainly can't player coming off the bench. So you look at that, and again, Otto shot the ball a little bit better coming off the bench, but ultimately you weren't getting max production for a max contract. And so you make a trade and you get two players that average, about 14 points a game, and one of those guys has an opportunity to be re-signed, if not both. But when you separate from you up, to do some other things. So I really think the move was really motivated by that. Also combined with the fact that you need help now because you're not going to see John Wall for an additional year. In addition to the injury that would have kept him out for the season, now you've got an even bigger injury that you have to deal with.
Tony, I'm not sure of this. I know you played for a ton of teams in the NBA, Spurs, tons of teams.
Yep.
How often were you traded? I know you had to have been traded at least once. And what was it like when you actually got traded? Like, how did it go down?
I think I was traded twice. But initially, the last trade, a couple of trades I do remember. I actually remember being traded from the Toronto Raptors to the Philadelphia 76ers. And I also was traded from the Vancouver Grizzlies to the Houston Rockets. And both times, again, I was aware there were rumors, but, nobody actually called you in the office and said, we're looking to trade you. So when that happens, especially to a player early in his career, it can be a distraction because it's not something that most NBA guys are accustomed to that first time. It feels a little bit like rejection and at the same time a little bit of uncertainty because you're going to a new situation and you don't always know what's expected of you, and you have to show up and do your job and adjust to your teammates in a new city and a new system. That's just part of being a professional. It's not an easy part, but it is part of the profession.
How can you allow 148 points in a regulation game?
When you make a big trade, as a guy is warming up on the basketball court and you're already missing an all-star and you're having to rely on your G League affiliate to call up guys and have as many as, 2-3 guys on the floor from the G League at the same time. That trade went down yesterday and again, it can be a distraction for the players and so the way things unfolded, I think it was just a lack of manpower. Just, they wouldn't have had enough to get it done last night. They would have struggled with Giannis Antetokounmpo as they did the game before. So even with the full roster, you're going to struggle against the Milwaukee Bucks. And when you deplete the roster or at least make a trade in the middle of a game, that sometimes can affect how guys go out and play that night. We saw it all over the league. It wasn't just the Wizards. Teams that were swirling in trade rumors, a lot of those teams' players did not respond well.
Yeah.
All right, so what's next? If you're the Wizards and you're your best guess and you're Ernie, God only knows what he'll come up with, who's next? I got to imagine there's still going to be a couple more moves.
I can't really say who's next because you don't know
to
what
would you
level
do
they're committed.
If it was you?
Well, I wouldn't trade Bradley Beal. I think that's a piece that you start to build around, and I think you start looking at how you can effectively improve the team given the restrictions that you have from a salary cap standpoint, from a draft pick standpoint. I think you basically have to do what Ted Leonsis pays you to do, and that's figure out what's the best situation for the Washington Wizards as currently constructed. Now
Do you
again,
move
I'm not the
Green?
GM.
Do you move
Ariza?
Those guys.
I think you entertain offers to move pretty much anybody. I think you entertain offers, but again, depending on what you're being offered, determines whether or not you make moves. I don't think you just give guys away. I think the Wizards have said they're not tanking still, but they also said that they weren't going to trade Otto Porter or Bradley Beal. So
do you think they can thread that needle? Do you think they can tread water and kind of fight for that 8th seed and still try to get better eventually, or do you feel like you have to bottom out?
Quite honestly, I don't know how they're going to make the playoffs with the roster as currently constructed. And we're going into the second half of the season where teams genuinely step it up in the All-Star, after the All-Star game and jockeying for playoff position. And the Wizards are clearly hobbled and needing to make some more moves. But again, I don't know what will come down the pike, by this afternoon. So that would determine what my moves would be. Your moves are going to be whatever the best option is available to you. And, that's probably going to take a little bit more time to play out.
Mm-hmm.